Hello and welcome to episode 40 of the Absolute Game of Nerds. Kind of hard to realize that we've been doing this for 40 episodes now. JP is here. He's going to be a few minutes late. He had a couple things come up, but he will be here shortly. But with us on our 40th episode, we have Jesus, aka Doomcard, on Instagram, on YouTube. Doom, how's it going?
How's it going, man? Doing good.
Good. Yeah, awesome. Thanks for coming on, and awesome to have you for our 40th episode.
Yeah,
So
congrats.
thank you.
That's a nice milestone for sure.
Yeah. So we always start kind of with a basic kind of your origin story when it comes to, the hobby. Obviously, Doctor Doom for you, Marvel in
Yeah.
general, or whatever it is that got you into comics. Was it as a kid? Was it as an adult? Was it as a kid? Took a break, came back as an adult. What is your origin story with that?
Oh man, I'm one of those guys. I didn't grow up with comic books. Unfortunately, like that was stuff that I found out when I was in college, right? Like I just didn't know about it. Didn't know about Marvel cards either, right? Weird because now I'm like that's mostly what I collect. But it started for me like Ninja Turtles growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Big deal. We used to, me and my mom used to walk across the street to the grocery store and rent the VHS copies. And I just rewatch them over and over as a kid. Then one day I think I found like a Panini. I think Panini makes those sticker books, and that was like
Mm-hmm.
my first introduction to something like collectible. That in Dallas, I'm from Dallas. Over here, there's lowrider culture, really, really big scene. So they used to have like these stickers that you could collect for like 50 cents, 25 cents. I started collecting that stuff. Those are like the first things I collected. And going forward, like I got into, I think before the pandemic, I got into like sneakers. I had a bunch of sneakers. I couldn't afford them as a kid. A teenager, we want the Jordans or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I started buying them as an adult. And then during the pandemic, I found sports cards. I'm a huge basketball like fan, so I was looking for basketball cards, and then one day I found Marvel cards in between, and I sold everything, just went straight for Marvel. Like that.
Oh, so out goes Luca and in
How
comes
goes
Doctor
Luke?
Doom.
Luca got too expensive for me.
Yeah.
Like I sold them off, and it's funny. I didn't know they existed. And the first thing I gravitated was the Gambit from '94 Masterpiece from the Brothers Hildebrandt, the set, and that and Doctor Doom.
Right on.
Yeah,
So it was even though it was in the 2000s, it was the mid 90s sets that you found first.
yeah. '94 Masterpiece was the first set I found, and around that time it was mostly like the 1990 Impel, which it had like a big surge. Like it was, I think those boxes were going for over $1,000, something crazy during that time. That was around the beginning of 2021 where I really discovered it for sure.
Yeah, I always like to say with that 1990 set, I collected that as a kid. So like 90, 91, 92 were the biggest influence Marvel wise for me. And I remember when people started grading that 1990 set and you'd heard the prices for PSA 10s. I remember thinking, what? I have those. I have those cards, like not knowing what a PSA 10 was, of course. And they were just sitting in a box at my parents' house at the time for 30 plus years. No, there were no PSA 10s in there. I mean, not even close.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, for me, like I was in the basketball world and people were talking about them, and that's how you knew like the non-sport stuff, the Marvel stuff was kind of getting hype. And I remember buying a couple packs, and I got the Wolverine from that set, the one with the moon in the back.
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Where he's in the brown suit.
yeah, brown suit. And I remember like it looked really centered, and I sent it to PSA. First experience, I think it was crazy because PSA was backed up. I think I had to pay like $200 to get it
For one card?
for one card. And it was a gamble. I was like, man, it looks really centered. Let me see if I can get a 10. I got a 10.
Oh, nice.
And around March, I think it was March 2021, I put it on eBay. And I think the person who ended up buying was Aoki's card,
Yeah.
his card account, right? Like, so Steve Aoki bought that. He has the PSA 10 that I graded. The first
Oh,
card I graded too.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
that's that's funny. Yeah. I mean, hopefully, yeah, I heard because like during that time, PSA backed up so much. The only thing they could do was raise the price to kind of slow the feed
Yeah.
coming in.
I know people
Um,
waited for over a year to get some of those cards back. Like
yeah.
it got pretty insane for sure.
Well, I hope you made that $200 back from Steve Aoki because he's got the money for
I
that for
think I
sure.
sold it for around 700. It was a good, ended up being well, but like it's just weird how it is now because now he just posted like a video with all his collection. I'm like, oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, dude, that his stuff that he's got card wise is pretty unreal. Um, okay, so we are gonna get to Doctor Doom, but you said Gambit. So are you a Gambit fan too, or just that card's art that you love?
Yeah, like my introduction to Marvel was the X-Men cartoon. Like
Yeah,
for me growing up, it was TMNT, Batman animated, and X-Men. Like those were
yeah.
like the three major cartoons. So, watching that, like my first connection to it was Gambit. I was a Gambit fan. Um, I like Wolverine too, but I was definitely like into the Gambit cards and just the whole appeal. Like I'm really nostalgic to really all those characters that were involved in that,
Mhm.
but Gambit was my guy growing up for sure.
Yeah, those 3 cartoons plus the Spider-Man animated series was yeah, everything for me growing up
See,
as
people
well.
tell me that, but I missed out the whole Spider-Man
I
cartoon.
mean, it is on Disney Plus if you do wanna check it out.
I'm not a huge fan of Spider.
Yeah.
Spider. Uh, but it is one of those staple cartoons that so for some reason I just never connected with. I don't remember at all.
Yeah. So then Doom as a child, you did not know of Doctor Doom.
Did not know Doctor Doom.
Okay, so tell us the story of Doctor Doom, where that came about, how that came about.
The only reference I knew to Doctor Doom was growing up with hip hop, listening to like MF Doom. So I
Mhm.
knew a little bit. Like I knew of the actual like design of the mask and stuff. And I don't know, when I started looking early 2021, it was the one of the characters that I just went back to like immediately. Like I just love the character design, like especially like just Jack Kirby style, like era. Like to me, like the poster you see behind me, like
Yeah.
that stuff to me is it's even though it's not nostalgic because I don't know it from as a kid growing up. There's something about it that really connected with me.
Um, can you talk real quick on I've heard Sergio say this too with MF Doom. So I only know very little MF Doom. I mean, is he actually like a heavily influenced by Doc? I know he's got the mask, but like does he have much more connection to the actual Doctor Doom? Like,
Like, well, Sergio is much bigger fan of MF Doom. I kind of like knew a small portion amount, but I know one of his. It's almost like one of the characters that he uses to as a like a rap identity was a lot of influence using clips from the old '60s cartoons with like audio clips of Doctor Doom and like a lot of references of the comic book world. Also, like a lot of like Godzilla lore type of connection in there too. Like he's referencing a lot of pop culture along the way, but definitely like the mask and the imagery is from Doctor Doom.
got it. Okay. Yeah, because I know also that mask is kind of very similar to like the Gladiator mask. So I was very unsure if like is this an actual Doctor Doom connection? Is it, or is he
To
so
my understanding, I know, we talk about Freeze, major MF Doom head also like and like a lot of those Doctor Doom guys are really heavy into, that era of rap. So,
got it.
they're much
Okay.
more knowledgeable about that. But I knew he referenced it throughout his music. And for me, like, you know, when I really started collecting heavily, it was during a special time, It's for me the hobby's always been like emotional. I talked about it. I know we talked about it in our podcast, but it was a time when my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So I was already in it, but I was really looking for an escape and I
Mhm.
really went in, shout out to Fausto, Sketch Card Hive. Like he had videos up during that time of his character collecting. And I went down the rabbit hole. I just kind of looked for all the cards and just really doing research. Like that's one of my favorite things to do. Just go find
The hunt.
information.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hunt, man. Like doesn't get better than that.
Yeah, the hunt and the community are easily the best parts. Like, it's kind of funny. You hunt, and you hunt, and you hunt, and then you get this prize, and then you get it, and you're like, okay, cool, and you just kind of like put it over there. But it's like
Yeah,
the
they
hunt
kind
and
of
sharing
stack
it
up.
with the homies is the best part. Like, hey, look what I got, and
Yeah,
finally got it. Like, that's the best part for
that's
sure.
a big part. I mean, during that time, there wasn't a lot of reference now where you can go to Instagram pages and you see a bunch of cards. For me, like I was one of the few guys who was. I remember my Instagram. I was posting every card I found. I had over 130 posts. Like I was just posting like every day, like a new card that had a Doctor Doom, and I think that's how I make connections with certain people. Elusive, I know you interviewed him
Yep.
too, and Sergio, and Fausto, and those guys. So those are like the first people I interacted with.
Got it. Okay, so just so everyone is aware, Do mentioned his podcast. So his podcast is called the NSDC. We've talked about it because his two co-hosts are Elusive, who we interviewed a few weeks ago, and then before that is Sergio, Monster in the Iron Mask.
Yeah.
So I'll put a link in the description of the episode so that everyone wants to check that out. It's a great podcast. They actually just had Manu on, who we just had on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of the same guests kind of go on both. So it's a good show. Check it out. So you mentioned, so just like JP and I, then you and those guys, you never met prior to collecting. You guys weren't friends before or
No,
anything like that.
no, no, no. We kind of all met in the hobby. I mean, during that time in Marvel Cards, like you had the Facebook group, like the
Yeah.
MCCW, the big group, which is still there, like the biggest Facebook group for Marvel Cards. And then there was the MMC, the Masterpiece Only group, where you had so a lot of a lot of those people, like they were OG collectors, so they're kind of like private about information, and new people are coming in. They weren't very accepting of us. Not,
Got it.
some were, some weren't. That's why Fausto, he's a big person in the hobby. He kind of embraced the people in the Instagram community, and we were making our own little community there. And yeah, we kind of all met there during that time for sure.
Nice. Have you actually? So I always think it's funny because like JP and I, we've actually never met yet. We have a podcast together. Have you met Elusive and
Um,
Sergio?
In person, no.
Yeah, same thing then.
One
Yeah,
one day we got to do it. We keep talking about it, but
yeah.
I, I don't like to really go out. Like I'm good at home. Like I don't really like to go
So
outside
you're
and
like Manu in that facet.
yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Like but one day I think I'll make a trip out there. Maybe California. I don't know if Elusive's gonna be able to come down over here. He's got a family and everything, so
Yeah,
we'll make it happen one day.
yeah. We've been JP and I, and then our other friend Mike from Lunchmate. We've talked about maybe doing like a con next year to actually because we talk like every day. Like I'm sure you guys talk every day, and so
We
it's like kind of
do.
fun.
I mean, yeah, it started as just cards, and then you know how it goes. Like you get friendships, and you start talking about life, and then you go on like 6 7 hour conversations where like they just go everywhere. You kind of you learn the personalities, and it's a brotherhood in there for sure. Like it was always just that group, and then towards like the past couple months, there was a huge event, MentalCon. I don't know if
Yep, yep.
people talk about it much, but it was an event by shout out True Blue Collectibles and Retroverse UK. Those guys really grabbed, they're people who connected all of the little groups and cliques, and they did a charity stream where they just went 24 hours, and people donated,
Yeah,
money towards
and they raised like 20 something $1,000 for Wounded Warriors. Crazy.
something amazing, right? Like
Yeah.
we were part of that. We were part of like the midnight crew. Make sure
Yeah,
to cover them for like a couple hours.
I was definitely watching for a lot of that, and I remember you guys because I was in the chat talking with you guys, and it got to be I want to say I lasted till about I'm not a late night guy, so I lasted
Yeah,
till about 11:30, and I'm on the West Coast. You're 2 hours ahead of me. Sergio's 3 hours ahead of me, and you guys are still going. I'm like, all right, I'm out of here, guys.
weird go. We just I think Manu was on there the first time we interacted
Hmm.
with him. Shout out to Alonzo. Alonzo was in there for a while, but yeah, it was fun to talk to those guys and connect. And after that, we have a it is more of a community. Before that, it was mostly like cliques, and like people are still private. I don't know. I'm sure you've encountered it. Like some people don't want to say anything. They don't
Yeah,
want to tell you where to find things. They don't want. They're very protective. It was very like before that, like last year or so. It was very competitive. Like people, we had to hustle to get our collections. We had to dig, and most of us really just grinded on eBay, just finding stuff and scooping up cards to really get our collections in order. But now, a lot of people, we hang out in Swami's Discord. Shout out to Swami. Like
Yep,
he's
yep.
they have a really cool culture over there, and a lot of those guys are active in there. There's voice chat. People jump in. We have like a little Mario Kart group now. Where we just go play and just hang out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on Swami's Discord, and I see you guys always play Mario Kart. I don't have Mario Kart. I'm not a big video game, but I see everybody's like Melfi will shout out, be like, "Hey, who wants to play?" And there's like
Yeah,
10 guys are in there all of a sudden.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's fun, man.
yeah,
It's especially like times right now where like the hobby. There's a lot of people not too happy. Every now and then you see releases come up and like certain people throwing tantrums online and stuff. But like,
yeah. It's
you know,
funny when you see that. It's like, guys, we're all here to kind of get away from the
it's
nonsense. Like,
yeah. So we go in there like, hey man, let's just get on Mario Kart. Like, forget everything else is going on. Like, let's just go have fun. And we talk. We have a fun time as a
yeah, no,
group.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome. So, taking it back to a little bit what you said earlier. So you with Doctor Doom, you said you're like Jack Kirby. So JP, who should be here any minute,
yeah.
he and I oppose views on this. So he does not like Jack Kirby. Jack Kirby
Right.
is my favorite artist. I just dig that vintage style.
Yeah.
Like for example, like I know a lot of you guys are Simone Bianchi fans, and he is
Mhm.
phenomenal. But I would take Jack Kirby's Doom over him just because I like that vintage style.
Oh, 100%. Me, like it doesn't get better than Jack Kirby, but like yeah. And I'm a huge Simone Bianchi fan, but the aesthetic, I don't know. There's something about his lines that to me,
Yeah.
anything he touches was golden. Like it's again, it's almost nostalgic, but I didn't grow up with that imagery. Like I'm also connected to the '60s a lot. Like there's a lot of like '60s design that I really love overall, and multiple collectibles and stuff. So that era to me is just special.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know, maybe it's just because that's where it all started is maybe why, but I agree with you. Just the style that he drew, and even the artists that followed him, like John Byrne, John Buscema,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that, that era is what I like in terms of when it comes to the specific art is what
Hmm.
I love. So yeah, I'm 100% with you. So you've mentioned Fausto. And Fausto, as we know, is a massive Silver Surfer character collector.
Oh yeah.
Would you consider yourself? I mean, your name is Doomcard, so we're gonna say you're a character collector for Doctor Doom, correct?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Give me the level of which you collect Doctor Doom. So again, like we have Fausto on one end, where he's collecting if the word Silver Surfer is on the
Imp-
back of the card.
yeah, impossible level. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
like
and then
yeah.
I'm more of like I love Silver Surfer. I'm collecting Silver Surfer, with my comics, but I just kind of want to collect the cards that I really enjoy. I don't need to have every single card. Like, where do you fall in this?
I started down the path he kind of set. So it's interesting. Like
What's up,
I've been
JP?
all types. What's up, man? Yeah. So I've been all types of collectors, right? I've gone
Hey
over
guys.
every single one. How's it going,
Yeah.
man?
So JP, this is Jesus Doomcard. So he's telling us about what kind of level of character collector he is for
Peace.
Doctor Doom.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So
Awesome. Sorry
I've
for being
had
late,
the
guys.
full experience of searching every single card and even like the back of the card. Like it gets really stupid. Really, it's honestly it gets so stupid. Like it's like where's Waldo? And you're trying to find the character. Like it. I've done that, and then I've done like where you know what? I'm gonna stop. I'm just gonna focus on the cards that I like. I did a very high end like Doctor Doom collection, but a lot of those cards weren't really meaningful to me after a while. And then at the end, I just kind of went for all like the super obscure like Fantastic Four #5 stuff, like the stuff that I really love. The Jack Kirby, Doom. I just got like a comic cut. I have 3 comic cuts from that issue, so those are impossible to find. Stanley autograph card like from Marvel Beginnings. Those are
Yes, that's I've seen that on your feed. The which is the card with the cover of Fantastic Four 5, and then it's got the
yeah.
Stanley
I can
auto.
show it to you.
My question for you is like, how did you get that? So that card came out in 2012, and you've only been
Yeah.
collecting since the pandemic essentially. Yeah, that's freaking sweet. Like, where did you scoop that up?
So during
Wow.
this time, yeah, during this time,
Oh,
I had all the PMGs, right? People love the shiny cards. Like I make fun of them all the time, but people will love, all the PMGs, all the like the high value cards. I had the red and the blue. Since the first day I started collecting, I found like a bunch of rare cards, and I just scooped them all up for Doctor Doom. It was easy. No one was paying attention to them. I had the jambalaya. I had the PMGs. I never got the green one. That one's always difficult to obtain, but I remember selling that one day. I think I sold it to Justin. Uh, I sold him the blue PMG, and then that week, I saw it on eBay. That's where I got
Hmm.
my entire collection, really, on eBay. Like it popped up. I had never seen it before. I think it was around $400, and I bought it. Like,
I feel like it's a steal.
and I haven't seen one since. Like there's the other one I got. There's a Joe Sinna auto
Yep.
for that one too, and there's a dual auto,
Of Stanley and Sinat.
and I've never seen that one.
Oh yeah. Just so people are aware, so to give a little reference, these cards, they're the comic covers, and you can get them just regular, which I have a bunch of, and then they have autograph ones. So Stan Lee signed a bunch. So for example, Stan Lee has a Fantastic 448. He has a Silver Surfer 1. I've never seen them available, but I do know right now on eBay there is a Tales of Suspense 39. So first Iron Man signed by Stan Lee, and the price on eBay is $3,500.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so when he says he picked that up for $400, like that's a crazy good
I
deal.
believe it was like 500 or best offer, and I sent an offer. Like I don't know. During that time, like people weren't paying those prices, right? It was still 2021, 2022, maybe like early on, and I knew it was special when I saw it. So I went after it. I got it, and yeah, I think I've talked to Fausto, and he knows where like some of those are, but like they've never been for sale. Yeah,
Yeah. Do you know how many of like that specific card there are of the Stan Lee ones? Any idea?
I believe there's less than 10,
Yeah.
maybe less than 5 on some. Like there's no real definitive. By now, like some of these numbers, like people are just guessing because there's no definitive number. And the dual autos, I mean, there might be only one or two out there, really. Like
Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome. What so you said you find everything on eBay. Take me back to you said you did start down that path of wanting to be that like ultimate character collector.
yeah.
What is the research like? How are you researching what? Like, did you make a big database? Like, how are you researching to find what you would need?
So I think for us Marvel card collectors, there's always been the Jeff Allender's checklist, the website where it has every single checklist for up till like maybe 2018 masterpiece or 2016 masterpiece.
Oh,
There's a
I didn't
whole
know this
list.
site.
Oh man, come on! Like that's like the Bible of like check. Like you need that.
I'm new.
How
I'm
are
new.
you finding cards
I'm
without?
ultimately,
new. I'm new. I'm newer to the
jeez.
card game. I'm newer to the card. I'm
How
learning.
I'm surprised
I
you're
even knew
finding
that.
what you're finding.
To be perfectly honest, I wouldn't know as much as I know if I didn't follow guys like you, guys like Fausto, guys, because you get to see what is all out there. Like
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
The
I mean,
and that's the benefit of people coming in now. Like you get to see certain Instagram accounts as like a visual library. And we
yeah,
didn't. It wasn't out there, especially for Doctor Doom. It wasn't out there. There's a website called Trading Card Database.
I have found that. I have found that.
So if you go to the Doctor Doom area, a lot of those scans are mine because I started just doing it as a service to whoever comes along. Hey, look, this is what it looks like. You could post your images, your scans, and a lot of that I went through every single set. I just started going through it. You just get the names of the cards, numbers, and then I would go to trading card database and try to find like images for it. And a lot of them I couldn't find. So a lot of them was just eBay searching and just finding it. Okay, I spotted matching the number, getting my little library going here, and then that's how I did it. Every day, just finding new cards every day
So what
for
was that
about a
website?
year and a half. Yeah, about a year and a half straight.
What was the website? Jeff Allender.
Jeff Allender's checklist, and I think the website is NS Lists. .com. I'll send, you know, I can send you a link. You can link it to the video if people want to check it
Awesome.
out.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to check it out.
Those two, and then eBay sells. Like that's how you find, and Google search. If you do a random Google search, like you'll see images like what is that card, and then you have to
Yeah,
like,
I've done that. I've
yeah,
done that.
gotcha.
Are you a type of guy that, so I know like talking to Elusive, talking to Manu, these guys will spend hours on eBay. Are you in that kind of vein, or do you just kind of set your search dots and then just kind of wait till they pop?
I did for a long time when I was doing like the Doctor Doom deep dive. Like I did. Now I have like the blue dots that I have for Doctor Doom for specifically like really obscure things that I'm looking for to pop up. Other than that, yeah, I'll still eBay like, you know, a couple hours a day. Like I'm checking my phone constantly. It's a habit now. You just kind of looking through your blue dots and seeing where you end up. And then people like Sergio, like you guys have talked to Sergio, like he finds the most obscure stuff, and he like now we have a network of people. You know, they just send me links, and okay, I never knew this, you know, existed obscure thing over here. Like he found some booklet with gums from 19, I don't remember where. Like it was a Surfer of Doom, and I'm like, dude, I don't know how his brain works. Like he's finding really obscure stuff. Like he's good at that. I'm good at like, you know, finding rare cards, specifically like sketch. You know, I look at sketch cards because a lot of those are not obtainable. Like a lot of those are kept in like super OG collectors have like John Romita sketches that have, you know, Stan Lee sketches that have all these, you know, Marvel creator sketches. So, you know, just random stuff that way. And then Elusive is always after, you know, he's always studying like eBay sales and like the market. He understands that very well. So
Yeah, he's actually been a good resource in terms of like I'll find like a Silver Surfer card I want, and I'll be like, "What is a fair price for this?" And he's like, "I would say that card is X." And I'm like, "Perfect, like good to know."
he, you know, he's the best one I know that understands the market. I mean, people like Fausto are, you know, used to ask him all the time, "Yo, what do you think this goes for?" Like he understands like the new prices coming up and the dips, and you know, and when they go up, this new collectors coming in, new money coming in, and what cars should be priced at what. Like he loves doing that.
Yeah. So you are no longer on the path of needing every Doom card
No,
printed.
there's no way.
What are you collecting now then?
There's
No way.
JP. There's no way people can do that now. It's
No.
not. Look,
There's
no.
way too many cards out these days to
Yeah.
even try to get near there.
It's too much. It's too many people collecting. Like those, some of these you've seen it, Rohan. Like some of these out of 25 cards are selling for over, you know, $1,000. Like
Yeah.
some of these, you know, out of tens are going for $2, $3, $5,000. Like it's getting stupid. Like it unless you have, you know, Steve Aoki money, you can't buy full sets. Like you're not picking up everything.
Is
So
there?
JP, I don't know if
Do
you
we
know this,
think
but
there's
Steve
a
Aoki is a big Marvel card collector, so that's why that was actually a direct reference.
now? The guy that was doing the Pokemon, that was the NFL player.
Blake
He
Martinez.
right. He's in trouble or something now, right?
Yeah, I don't remember what, and it's related to his Pokemon stuff. I don't know what.
Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know the
something
details.
around that. Yeah, I don't know the details, but I did catch that the other day. Yeah.
So the question I have is that, do you feel that though this is a bubble, given the prices people are willing to pay for some of these cards? Do you think we had the comic bubble, we had a collectible bubble in 2020, 2021, whatnot? Is the card still moving forward, chugging along, and eventually it's going to burst, or is this all good money after good money?
That we did have a bubble with like PMGs during that same time around 2021, 2022, like early on. Some of those sets went for, you know, six digits for sure, and then they're all now back to, you know,
Well,
20,
yeah,
30,000. You know, like
talking
it's
with Justin Spidey Hits, like he's told me like the green Spidey PMG from whatever that first year is, 2013 or whatever. He said it sold at the peak for $255,000, and now that card goes for like the mid 30. It's still a lot of money, $30,000, but
But it
way
was
different than 200,
255.
255,
yeah.
and that's an out of
Now it's
10
down to
card.
30.
Yeah,
There's
Well, think
definitely
about
like
that.
a wave. Yeah.
I'm gonna say that new Spawn. You guys hear about that Spawn comic that had like 50 on the census, and all of a sudden somebody found a stack of 70. So
yep, yep.
when you know the census count or think you know it, and then somebody comes up with that
Yeah.
with these cards, could that really mess up from a 250 range down to 30?
Well, like that 250 range, that card it actually has a number on it that says this is 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10. So you
Yeah.
do know that there's a finite number.
But why would it
However,
drop that much? Like, I don't. That's pretty substantial. Like,
I mean,
you
I
know
think
what I
that was just
mean?
I think that's just a very extreme case. Well, Spider-Man is the most popular character that people collect, and I just think it's a very extreme case. Like,
I mean, look, there was there's a lot of things that aren't said, just amongst the community. Like there are some funny actors in the game. Like there was some funny money going around. There's a lot of manipulation going around during that time. There was some actual sales at those peaks though. Like there was new people coming in and buying big, but like there's if you keep an eye out, you still see funny stuff going on. That's not all the up and up. Like there's a lot of manipulation going around, even in masterpieces, right? That just came out. Like there's a lot of weird examples out there. If you look through the eBay sales, like there's some cards that are going for $2 that are out of 10. Like it's just weird stuff going on.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we all know, like if you're around long enough, like there's always people trying to scheme up ways to manipulate the market and really I guess take control of a certain set. Like I've heard it from all the OG guys. Like 2016 Masterpiece was controlled by very few people. So like anytime you like Rohan, if you're trying to get a 2016 like Just Go Auto, like you just don't find them.
Yeah,
You
I
don't see
mean,
them out there.
it sold. There was one that sold right before, or right after, like Masterpieces. The new Masterpieces set was um, announced. So JP, like there's a 2016 Silver Surfer. I think it's the What If variant. So it's like the Surfer card, but they put a comic book background on it. That card was out of 50, but then they did another 10 where Joe Jusko signed them, and those are numbered out of 10, and that sold for 5K.
Yeah.
So yeah, that 20, but kind of like it's funny that you say that with the 2016. It's kind of controlled by a certain few people because do you know Tim Undaunted Collectibles, the big Daredevil guy?
I've
So
seen his Instagram.
yeah. So he and I we were looking at this guy that's on Instagram that we found called the Masterpiece Collector, and he has like an entire
Yeah.
set of like the Silver Spectrum, and we were like, oh my gosh, blah blah blah. And then on the Discord, guys were like, no, F that guy. Like, he's one of these guys that just screws people over. And we were like,
Yeah.
we had no idea. We were just like drooling over this
F
stuff.
that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's a lot of stories about that guy.
Yeah.
Like it's not my place to tell them, but like you ask around some of the OGs, they let you know what happened. There's always
Yeah.
been drama around like big time releases and each set, like the 2018 the Bianchi set, it was controlled by a couple guys too. Like there's a history of that going on. So when this new one came out, like people really trying to like lock down certain things or really buy a lot of cases, and it gets really messy to say the least. Yeah.
Now, I've seen you on a ton and even opening your own boxes of the 2022 masterpieces. So, talk to us now about like what your collecting goals are now. I know you're also getting into Turtles. I know you also have a bunch of Batman the animated stuff.
Yeah, so when Spider-Man Metal came out, which was a big release, like modern release, it also introduced a lot of people because there was Spider-Man PMGs, so people were really looking forward to PMGs again, and they got some of the original designers to really make them look really, red and green, like the original foiling that they used. So people were excited. Upper Deck, started pricing them kind of crazy. Like, there's a lot of people who got upset during that set. So for me, during that time, uh, I just kind of stepped away and I went into Batman animated. Like that was one of my cartoons growing up, and I started, enjoying, other card sets, um, grading some stuff. Kevin Conroy passed away during that time. I found like some of these where he autographed them, and I picked some up. Small collection of these. Just try to get some of those cards to reflect that nostalgia for me. Um, and I even bought some original art, some merchandise art that they use for the actual card design and like the card. So like the Man Bat, Killer Croc, the Harvey Dent, Harvey Bullock. Like I have the original pieces of the person
Oh,
who
awesome.
illustrated that stuff. And Bruce Timm. Like I always loved Bruce Timm's work, so I just started, looking at that stuff, picking up some comics. Like it was all new to me. Like I'm still trying to figure out with the turtles, and yeah, now I'm picking up turtles books. Like you've seen it. Like I have action figures and stuff. Like it's just all the stuff from my youth for sure.
Yeah.
And the Marvel
Real quick,
stuff it gets expensive, so I just look around for other stuff.
I want to ask, so since you brought the turtles, did you see the new movie?
I did. I just saw it.
What'd you think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. Like they changed some of the narrative and some of it's a Nickelodeon,
Yeah, yeah,
a movie film, but I love the animation style. Like I
yeah.
love how they did that. And I love how they set up, more films coming up. So
Yeah, I took my kids to see it on National Movie Day because it was $4 a ticket. I was like, "Oh, let's go do this."
yeah.
I enjoyed it. I will say, like, nothing has ever gotten me as much as like, you remember the original live action movie? Like that movie, still to this day, is
Oh
awesome.
yeah, I just watched it like 2 weeks ago. It's still
Yeah, it's
amazing.
still
Yeah.
so good, and like, I was hoping nothing has come close to that in my opinion, but it was still, I thought, a fun movie.
I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
picked
This
up a
one's
bunch of VHS tapes, and it had the VHS Turtles movie
oh
in there.
nice.
Yeah, that movie is
Nice.
so good. Like, and actually, that's one of the movies that like I could literally recite line for line while watching it because I've watched it so much as a kid.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I too watched it recently, and it's still, like I said, 100% absolutely still holds up.
Still really
Uh,
good. That
yeah,
I just watched the second part, the Ooze one too.
the Ooze.
This week, yeah, this weekend on Labor Day, I was just watching it. Yeah, it's still my favorite scene. When they go in there and have the big fight in the lab, like that's classic.
Yeah, yeah, I loved those movies as a kid.
The question I have is, you were, and not to get too far off topic, but you had mentioned that you got away from the masterpiece, you got away from the metal, correct, and got into the Batman animated. I don't. I mean, Rohan, most of what I see that you have are Marvel cards. There's not many people that collect graded DC cards, which there were DC cards when we grew up in the
Yep,
90s.
Yeah,
I think they only had one set.
they had the set with that gray border. I had a bunch of them.
That was it, right? So there's been nothing else. There's been Batman cards. There's been Superman or Spider-Man, or not Spider-Man, Spider-Man cards. There's been Star Wars, Superman. Uh, None of those seem to be the highly taught out, but that's an uncharted market, I think, right?
yeah. I mean I know Batman animated. Like there's a 1993 tops, which is like the first box released. I graded up. I was starting a PSA 10 like collection of the characters, and then I decided just to not do it because they're printed like they're not numbered, like they're just over
Right. You don't.
printed. So the only rarity is in condition. But I was selling some of the Harley Quinns, like that's the Harley Quinn first card ever, for around $350 like a piece. Like, so there's some
From the
people who are
Batman
buying
animated series.
from Batman animated.
Do you have an entire PSA 10 set of that 93 tops?
I don't. I was starting to have a collection, but then I decided not to go. It's just too much. Like I think I cracked maybe 5 6 boxes, and it was fun. I have like a whole binder collection. That's kind of what I ended up with.
Yeah.
And then there's a series 2 for that for tops, and they have a Danny DeVito like autograph
Yeah, the
card
Penguin.
from the Batman movie, Batman Returns, I think the second
Yeah,
one.
Batman Returns,
Yep.
yeah.
And then the 95, which I do have some of these. These were kind of like the hits. There were some foiled hits,
Oh, those are cool.
and these are very difficult to grade. I started doing like the subset. I think there's about 9 of these, but it's tough, man. Like the condition on those boxes, like when you open them, it's difficult to get them in good grades.
I have a My in-laws were cleaning out, so they have a campground, and somebody had left things like a filing cabinet full of Batman. They said to me, we have a bunch of Batman stuff for you, comics. And I was like getting real excited that there was going to be some 70s or really early Batman. And when they brought it to me, it was mostly magazines from the George Clooney Batman. So it was all the
Okay.
magazines and cards. So I've seen some of those glossy '90s cards, but it was all from Batman. What is it? Batman and Robin, I guess, was the
Batman and
movie.
Robin, yeah,
Batman
that
and
movie was
Robin.
awful.
So, and some of them are
Yeah.
those 4 card sets that are like the uncut 4 cards, but
Yeah.
I don't know what they're worth. But I mean, you just don't see a whole market for DC
Yeah.
that's out there mainstream. I'm sure there's, like you said, the animated would be cool with Harley Quinn and stuff like that, but some of those other ones are probably just as hard to find as the Marvel cards, but they just don't have the following. Maybe I don't know.
There's not enough of those products that were released. I know there's a Master series for Batman, which is almost like a Marvel masterpieces with for DC instead of Marvel. And they had like original art made for those cards. You just don't see people really opening them and grading them. Like it's just for some reason the DC market doesn't have the same effect. Like you see some of the 1960s cards, like you see those for sales and like over $1,000 on some of those cards. But it's mostly like the very vintage
Yeah,
Batman,
I
Batwoman, like
I've
yeah.
seen and we're actually
And I
going
don't
to interview
understand
him.
why that
I
is.
was
That
say, oh, go
Go
ahead,
ahead.
JB. I was gonna say the only reason I've
I,
seen a couple of those cards is because we're interviewing him in a few weeks. But Michael of Cool Card Life, he has a few on his website,
Yeah, he has
and
some
yeah,
of those. Yeah.
they're pricey. But yeah, those vintage ones are pretty sweet.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, JP?
I just was, there's got to be some rarity for those particular 90s cards. I mean, there was only one series made of DC. So, and there's only so many of those Batman animated cards. So, like, it just seems I don't get why the DC
Yeah.
market just.
Maybe this is your mission, JP. You can start pumping these and creating a market for it.
I got a bunch of Star Wars cards I will gladly pump,
Oh no,
but
Star
I
Wars
don't
cards
have.
have a lot of value. There's a lot of the guys on the Discord that we were talking about. A lot of those guys are huge Star Wars collectors,
That's
and
like
they drop.
Nice.
first Boba Fett there and a card from the '93, but I don't know what the value is of this stuff. So I mean, it's again the cards always come down to the grading of it, which makes it so difficult because it isn't cheap. I have I'm not a card guy and I have a stack 3 times the size of
Second
this.
card.
Am I going to grade all those to see where they come at? Probably not, right? So you kind of got to know what you're working with to see if it's worth to grade them, right? You
Yeah.
got to have an eye for that.
And I mean, you have to do, yeah, people have to discover them, actually want to like go through and be passionate about it. Like, there's those two sets, and then like these that I showed you, these are from '95. Like, a lot of people didn't know these. I was like one of the few people on YouTube or on Instagram where I showed people cracking them. Like,
Yeah, I've
people
never
just
seen
don't know
those.
they exist. Like, people are just not aware of it.
I mean, like I said, I'm new to cards as of the last like 5 6 months, and up until then, I didn't even realize that they made Marvel cards since the '90s.
Yeah,
Really, so
yeah.
I totally get that. You though have now, so with the Turtles, I've seen you post. You are starting to collect comics. That's not
Yeah.
you've started collecting comics though in general, correct?
Yeah. I mean, I always dabbled since I was like in college here and there, but like I never really collected the books. I would read like the collected editions. I was really into Walking Dead when that was like going on, and some of those comics. But recently, uh, I collected some of Doctor Doom stuff. But anytime I see a Turtles book, like I don't know, there's a different nostalgia for me. Like it's almost like the uglier the cover is, like I love it more. Like it's a different thing. I just want to. It's like a long term mission for me, just to collect as I go. And I know you've seen West Coast Avengers. Like he has his sales. That's mainly the person I buy from. Like
Oh, you buy from Dave? Okay.
I buy from Dave whenever he has some up, and I just I'm not really looking at what. I'm not really seeking out any issues. I just kind of collect them as I see them pop up. That's all.
Do you like read like for instance, like I loved the Turtles growing up, and so like I'm into them, but like they have like whole new like Last Ronin storyline. Like I don't even know what that is
Yeah.
about. Do you read them at all?
So the last one is what really got me back into the Turtles. Like I think it was like last Christmas, my family gifted me like the hardcover, and I read it. Like, there's the first comic book for Turtles I ever read. Like, and I love that storyline. That storyline is dark, and it's 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 like my favorite character growing up was always Mikey. So like it's all about Michelangelo.
What is the kind of general overall? Don't obviously need to go into details, but like, is it just, so is he the last one? Is
He's
that
the
the
last one.
oh,
That's the story.
got
And
it. Okay.
it's very dark. Like it's not, it's not nothing like the cartoon growing up.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's
yeah. I have said though recently, like I think it would be awesome if they made a Turtles movie more geared towards
yeah,
adults, because I mean the original comics are in that light. There weren't the kiddie type that you see.
right.
They're definitely on the darker side. Um, the other thing too, I find that's really cool about Ninja Turtles. So like, I also love GI Joe. I also love Transformers. However, both GI Joe and Transformers did not start in comics. Like they have comics, but that's not where they're like. Transformers were toys first, and
Right.
whereas Turtles. So I started collecting comics, and then why I wanted to start collecting Turtles comics was because that is where their true first appearance was. They started in comics, and so I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it's
Similar to like Marvel, like those guys all started in comics, so I want to. That's why I'm drawn to them versus like GI Joe comics or Transformers comics or
it,
Mario Brothers comics, for instance.
yeah, it's special in that way. And I don't know if you watched like Cartoonist Kayfabe, but like they did those videos with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, like going over like the first issues. Like that
Mhm.
stuff was going on at the same time. And I've always like listened to podcasts about comics and like watched the YouTube videos and never really collected, but I'm aware of it. Like I like to listen to all kinds of podcasts during the day. And so I'm aware of the names, I'm aware of like certain titles. And seeing that like definitely inspired it. And then like the New Mutant Mayhem, it's just all like Last Ronin. It was the whole Turtle Mania again. Like for me, it was just felt like a little kid again. So I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna buy all this stuff.
Yeah, I should pick up that hardcover like you talked about with the last Ronin to read. That I mean, yeah, it'd be
Oh
definitely
yeah,
a fun read.
man. I recommend it. It's
Is
yeah.
that Laird and Eastman as well though?
I believe you have some Eastmen working there, but it's two like three or four other guys in there who are
Okay,
doing
yeah,
most of the
I have seen
artwork.
like they did a thing at CGC like last year, and it was like 6 guys there that were all there for that signing. So
Yeah, Ben Bishop is one of those guys. Then there's two brothers who work on some of the issues. Like I'm sure Laird had some input in there, but like it's seems like Eastman and like those artists are the main core of that storyline.
got it. So what would be if you're willing to share? I know a lot of guys like to keep things private.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, in terms of what they're wanting to acquire in the future, like what are some, whether it be Doom, whether it be Turtles, whether it be Batman the Animated Series, like what are some pieces that you're still hunting down?
For Doom, I would love to have that dual auto. Like find that one.
Mhm.
Um, any card from
Do you have
the
like ambitions
beginning.
for? Do you have any ambitions for like Fantastic Four 5? I think you actually have a foreign version of Fantastic Four
I
5,
have
right?
I have the Mexican edition, La Prensa. I have there's it's a 2.5, I think. Yeah, it was like it was at a price that I could actually afford. Like you see some of these, like they're going for like a point five is going for 4 or 5 thousand. Like yeah, I'm not playing in that area. Like it's
That's ridiculous.
too much. Like
Yeah. I will
uh,
say you can get like a 2.0 now for about that price.
okay, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, one day it'd be cool. I mean, the thing about like the Mexican variant, I found a Fantastic Four annual number 2, and it was a Mexican.
Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah, I've seen a foreign version of that cover. Was it? Is it? Maybe it might have been Mexican. Yeah, that's it. I think that's like the second best Doom book there is outside of
Yeah,
Fantastic
I
Four
love
5.
the cover. I love the art of it too. Like and it has the origin story. But I remember buying it. I think it was like $300 at that time, and like my parents are from Mexico, so I would like show them the ads in there. Like it's a cool experience to see like they remember those products right at that time during the '60s, and it's just a cool thing to have. So when I saw that one available, it was priced for a lot more, but during I think it was sometime last year, like he dropped it down, and like I worked out a deal with him. Um, yeah, having a US version, like it'd be cool. I don't know if it's gonna happen. Like when you go into $5,000 area, like I'd rather just buy original art. Like just
Yeah.
get a Kevin Eastman like original art. I want a Bruce Timm piece one day. Like I want
That's an interesting point.
Yeah,
Buying the original art versus if you're going to
Well,
drop that
now
kind of money, that's one of one,
now
right?
let's also be real here though. Like the original art can get way more expensive.
yeah. It's probably not gonna be
Right. But I'm
published.
saying,
Like,
if you had $5,000 to spend on something, just to use a number, and you could buy a 1.0 of the first appearance of Doom, right? Doom number Fantastic
It's
Four
4 or
five is
5.
probably in that range for a 1.0. Is that right, Rohan? Or
Yeah,
am I off on
a
that?
1.0 you could probably get for around 3,500.
So if you had that kind of money, would you be better off to buy a piece of original art from Eastman, Laird, you name it? Would is that if you're looking at it strictly as an investment, is that a better option? If you're looking at it as a collectible for what you want to do, I guess it's open.
yeah,
But
Let me put it this way. Like it's hard to compare when you compare like Doom to Turtles because they're just different things. But like
I,
let's just say with Fantastic Four 5, for that price, we'll just say $3,000 for a 1.0. Would you rather have a 1.0 of, again, this is outside of investment,
yeah.
just for your personal collection? Would you rather
Collection.
have a copy of his first appearance, or for that same price, 3,000, you could probably get a published page of a more modern Doctor Doom comic, right, from the 90s?
Yeah,
To me, I would rather have the first appearance versus published, even though the published art is still one of one, but it's since it now, because like original art for Fantastic Four 5, I've never seen. If it came out, we're talking hundreds of thousands of
yeah.
dollars, right?
It's not attainable. Yeah,
Yeah, and
but
so I
is
always
it
find like I would rather have the original piece of history versus a newer piece of original art. So just that's how I view it. Everyone's different though.
well? I guess it comes down to, is it original piece of art of some random artist, or is it John Romita Jr.? Is it Mark Bagley? Is it Todd McFarlane? I mean, you name it. If it's somebody, excuse me, of some precedence in that '90s or even the 2000s, let's name. I can't even think of a name of anyone from the 2000s. It wouldn't be
Bagley's done stuff in the 2000s.
right, but who's a guy that who does all the portrait sketches? He does basically
Oh, Alex
looks
Ross.
Alex Ross. Um, geez, Arthur Adams. I mean, you name it. Would you rather have a piece of their original art? Is, I mean, again, it's
I
just
get
a
this. So first off, I will say when it comes to original art, I do prefer wanting original art from artists that actually drew them in comics and cards versus like a random person that's could be very good,
yeah,
but just drawing Doctor Doom.
yeah,
Still, though, I would much rather, personally, I would much rather own a copy of Fantastic Four 5 than a newer piece of original art. A perfect example of this is for just yesterday. So we've talked about the new Marvel masterpieces that just came out a couple weeks ago. The artist Dan Dos Santos, he offered commissions yesterday, so you can have him paint you whatever your character is in
yeah,
the style of like the. And so it was for a small, it was $2,500. For medium, it was 5,000, and for a large, it was $10,000.
yeah,
Again, in that scenario, I would rather put my 5K, let's just say, towards a Fantastic Four 5 than original piece. But everyone's different, right? I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Doom? What would you rather have?
yeah. I mean, yeah, and he sold them. He sold out in
Oh yeah,
like
they sold out like
in
that.
like less than an hour, like 15 slots, right? Like
Yeah.
it was impressive. Um, for me, like, yeah, if I'm spending, I'll judge it this way. Like, let's say if I have $5,000 or 6,000 towards a FF5 or Mike Mignola page from the Triumph and Torment with
that's pretty
Doctor
cool.
Doom and Doctor Strange. Like, I love the artist. I love Mignola style. Like, I would go after one of those pages, right? I don't know if they'll go for 6. I think the last one sold for around 8 or 9. Like, but when it gets to that point, and some of like the green PMG for Doctor Doom, when it sells for 5,000, 6,000, 10,000, like, I'd rather go get a published piece of art. Like, I'm not,
Yeah.
as much as I love the format of a card, it's not worth it to me at that
Yeah.
price.
I agree. And that's the thing too, like when you talk about Mike Mignola, like even with the modern stuff, if it's popular, the price is right.
Yeah,
Like I can, we'll talk about the Silver Surfer, right? Like Ron Lim, who is the artist that I grew up on drawing Silver Surfer in the 90s. So he even has more current stuff, but his stuff is over 10 grand for published pages for a lot of his stuff with like Surfer on it. Like,
Yeah, I mean, recently I haven't read them. I'm still new to the comic world, but I remember seeing the cover for Detective Comics, like a modern cover, and I think the artist's name is Evan Cagle, something like that.
I don't
And
know
he
that
had
one.
like it's almost like a etched, like black and white cover, and I loved it. I reached out, $5,000 for a cover. Like this is like
Yeah.
modern cover, like it's like
Yeah. Covers are even more than the interior pages. So
yeah, it's
yeah.
tough, man. It's tough.
So yeah, I mean, original art. I mean, obviously, like that's the pinnacle, I think, of this hobby. But it all just depends on what you like, especially if you're like a lot of people are just not into vintage comics, and so original art's an easy segue.
Yeah.
I like history and having a piece of the history, and so to me, I would much rather have, like I said, the more vintage comic that has
hmm
high significance versus we'll just quote and say a quote unquote random piece of original art.
And
But
for me, it's a
yeah,
mix. You can mix it up, right? You can have a
yeah.
little bit of everything. So that's I plan on doing that too. Like as far like goals for Batman, like animated, like I wish I could see more of the original art for like the merchandise. Like I'm sure someone has a Harley Quinn one out there. There's a Two Face. There's a Mister
Mhm.
Freeze. Like there's a lot of those pieces I haven't seen yet. And for Turtles, like I would love to have a original art of Eastman, like a modern cover. I don't care what it is, like
Yeah.
something like that.
I'll tell you another good way to do it. I mean, like, so as I mentioned, Ron Lim. Ron Lim was just at San Diego Comic Con. You can get a commission by Ron Lim drawing Silver Surfer. I talked to a guy who got one at $250. Like,
Yeah,
and he could draw that in a couple,
yeah.
really quick. Like, to me, like that would mean something, and that's something that is attainable for me. Versus like, yes, it would be cooler to have obviously a published page, but like that's going to be
That's another
out of it.
level of
Yeah.
for me. Doctor Doom, same. Like I've been getting AP sketches, like commission sketches. I was lucky enough to get on the Bianchi list, so I'm gonna have a Bianchi Doctor Doom sketch.
Was
Like
that the one he just recently did?
he recently did one, and they had like 15 slots or so, like for the
Yeah.
next. So I signed up for that. Like it's
Was that the one that they came on like Spidey's channel to
yeah,
announce it?
yeah.
Yeah,
They
okay, you
announced
got
it
on that
there.
list. Awesome.
So I got on that list, and I didn't know he was doing. You just don't. Those opportunities don't always show up. So, um, that I have. If Dan DeSantos does some APs, like I'd want to take a crack at that. Have one from the artist for the set, and I've had some other commission sketches that I'm waiting for. Like that's how I'm approaching it. They banned the character again, right? Like for a long time, like there wasn't Doctor Doom wasn't available in modern
Yeah.
sets from 2016. He came back 2022, and they banned him again. So
Well, he's banned again?
again, like the Fantastic Four is banned again. So the
Why?
sketch artists keep. I don't know. The sketch artists keep. Just announced that a couple weeks ago. So I don't know what's going on. Like Marvel, I don't know what they're doing, but I think Gamut's on the list. I think Nightcrawler's on that list where you can't really commission pieces anymore, or they're not
Wait,
going
so
to be in modern sets.
is your Bianchi commission going to be able to be Doctor Doom?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then some artists who will still do it. Like it's all like I don't really know that the sketch market or like the rules and like how people follow them. Like, but from my understanding, certain artists just don't. They'll follow the rules, and some will like ignore it. So
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about that commission process? Like, do you get specific to what you want, or you just say I want Doom and then go, or like what is your kind of thought behind that?
yeah, for the most part, like I would approach the art. Like if I like an artist style, I would just let them just whatever inspires you, right? Like I want you to have fun doing it. I don't want to give you specific details. There is one artist who asks for like does like panels. I know I believe his name is Kokonakis,
Oh
and he
yeah, I've
does
seen his stuff come up recently.
so that he's asking for all my input, like what are your favorite images. So it's very like you get to give your input, and like the more input, like the better for him. Like he really loves that style. So it just depends on the artist, but I would say most of them, you just kind of tell them, look, I want this character, and maybe reference your favorite art from that character, and they can create what they want to do.
Yeah. And just so everyone's aware, when he says AP, all it is, it's like a blank card
Hmm.
that you can purchase, and it will be on like Marvel Masterpieces card stock, and then you can commission the artist to then draw what you want on
Yeah, and most of the artists have like blanks to sell as part of the process when they do submit sketch cards for a set. They reward them with the blanks. I mean, there's once you learn more information about the process, like it's very. I mean, they don't pay them well to do sketches, and then there's a lot of shady stuff there, but
Yeah.
so they really rely on those sales for like artist proof, a commission, and they set their own price market, and you're paying the money directly to the artist. Like it's not going to a company. Like I like that aspect as well. Like I'd rather
Yeah,
give you the money.
it's kind of like a restaurant, right? It's like they may not pay the servers good money, but like
Yeah, yeah,
the goal is like they're going to make their money on their tips, right?
yeah,
It's kind of the same kind of thought.
Huh.
for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So what about where do you hope to see, like I said, going back to kind of what you are hoping to kind of hunt down with the turtles, like what are some what things that you would like to acquire in that area?
Turtles. I mean, I've seen you get some, those autograph cards from 2019, the tops ones. I showed you like that guy, the homie Jack.
Yeah.
He has a lot of one on ones. I pack pulled the one on one, and I sold it to him. He's a big Turtles collector too. So um, I would like to see some one on ones pop up again. Like, it'd be nice to keep one. Like I didn't keep one, so he has a Splinter. Like I had that one for a while. But there's other, there's sketch cards in that set that don't pop up every day from the creators. That'd be cool to get some of those. But you kind of just have to wait it out. Every now and then they'll show up, and if you know what you're looking for, you need to jump on it quick because those things disappear like in 15
Yeah.
minutes. Like.
Yeah. Um, talk to me more about. Let's talk about the podcast NSDC. How did
Mhm.
that start, and when did it start? Actually.
So the NSDC, it was elusive. He reached out to me. By then, we were talking, we were having talks and stuff, and he wanted to do a podcast. He had done a podcast previously with Justin, Fausto, Nick from Gingy Man Cards. I don't know if you've seen his videos. They all had like a big Marvel podcast, one of the biggest ones from the beginning of the community, right? Like um after because Fausto, like there's a main podcast that everyone kind of got their information from Fausto and Ian from the Facebook group, and then there was this new one. So after that, they had their falling out. Like he wanted to do another one, so we did a channel. We did our own channel. It was maybe about 20-30 followers, right? We would just talk about cards and what we were after. And we took a break. We took a break because I'm not a guy who likes to be in front of the camera. Like I know you see me now, like on lives and stuff, but like I'm not that type of guy. Like I'm not. It's this was all new to me. Like I'm very much an introvert, right? Like I didn't like to show my face for a long time. People didn't know who I was. So we did it, and it was more of an exercise to kind of like break that shell and be more, out there. Find new people, interact with other collectors, and then we moved it to his channel, uh, and we added Sergio in there, and some of the other homies like Free Comics. He was in a couple episodes. Like we just kind of hang out, talk about the hobby, talk about what we're into, and sometimes we have stuff to say and we're not happy about. Air it out, let the community feel it. But we try to keep it positive. Like it's just our time. Really, lately, it's been mostly like a check-in, like a mental check-in for each other. Like every week, every 2 weeks, we kind of hang out and just talk about, the hobby itself, what we're after, what we found, and we have some viewers now. There's definitely a lot of people who reach out now, and it's cool to see like our small little community grow. And we have fun. As long as it's fun, we'll keep doing it. But I keep telling Lucy, like, if I'm not having fun, I'm out, man. Like you're gonna have to find someone else. Like, yeah,
Yeah, JP and I talk about this like, we have a small subscriber base and would we like it to grow? Obviously. But at the end of the day, like it's more important for me to just like, and at least me personally, like I enjoy it. I want it, and that's why I look
yeah,
forward to doing it. So it's like if it grows, it grows. If it doesn't, I'm totally fine. I'm still having a good time, especially
yeah,
Well,
talking to all these
Jesus,
people in the
yeah.
community.
in your community, like friend wise, does anyone else do what you do that you have somebody to talk to about? Like, so that's kind of like where the benefit of having the podcast helps you out to just talk about that. Same with Rohan, same with me. You're going to talk about your wife or significant other about it. So you're going to, get on the podcast and be able to BS, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's the benefit of that.
yeah. Like I felt very much alone just picking up stuff, right? Like until like you see people pop up in like YouTube and like, oh, okay, there's people like me out there. Like
Yeah,
we're not crazy, right? We're not just talking to the wall all day. Like we see people doing like collecting and in the community. So that yeah, it all kind of like led to new friendships and people who are doing the same thing, collecting for years. Like Elusive talked to you, like I don't know if he talked about it, but he collected, Batmobile, like Hot Wheels
yeah,
for 10 years, like alone.
Yep.
Like it was so a lot of these guys, we kind of have that over the years, our different collections, and we all kind of found like the community found itself in Marvel cards. But I don't know if you talked to like Johnny Bravo, like that guy.
yeah. I
He's
talked
a
to him.
major collector. Like
He's
Johnny's
gonna be he's gonna be on in a couple weeks too.
one of the best people, like
Okay. I don't.
human
Okay.
beings, just like some of the most humble people with crazy. Like he's humble, but like his collection is it's scary. Like those are scary people. Like he's been grading for like 10 years. Like there's some people who have some really a lot of passion. Like we all are equally passionate about the hobby, but there's some people who've been doing it way longer for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so JP just get so Johnny Bravo. First off, he's a big Wolverine collector, and then so he so 1990 Marvel universe, right? That kind of series one set we all talk about. There are people that have a full set PSA 10. There are only two people though in the world that have the full set, including the holograms in PSA 10, because the Green Goblin versus Spider-Man hologram. There are three PSA 10s in the world. Johnny Bravo has one, and another guy, Azza, has the other two. So they're the only people in the world that has. And Johnny Bravo
Jeez.
had this set in 2011.
Yeah, I believe he said he was grading since 2006 or so. Like he's been doing it for a long time, and it's always awesome. Like part of the reason we did the podcast, like we didn't really know Johnny like that. We kind of seen his like Instagram profile and you see him like comment and stuff, but when they hear you and they hear like how you talk and we interact as friends and we like cracking on each other, making fun of each other, like there's no egos there. Like that's the only rule. Like no egos. And we have a fun time, so people want to jump on and like really, talk to us and the stories they have, the collectors, there's some interesting stuff in there that you just
Yeah.
don't hear otherwise. Like they're not gonna open up to other people. Like
Yeah, I mean,
We
I'll
we
be
try
honest.
that with lunch money, but Rohan just has too much of an ego for that.
you can't have divas in the group,
Yeah,
man. Like you
No,
got
he's a
you can't
diva.
do
He's a
it.
yeah. I will say when you watch the NSDC, I feel like when it comes to giving shade, you guys give it to Sergio more than anybody.
giving shade.
You know, a lot of what you don't see is like all the shit they give me throughout the day. Like so sometimes I'm just ready to throw some fire at them, like sometimes Elusive has to catch it. Like he likes to, stir the pot a little bit. So, it's always fun though.
Yeah, I mean, kind of speaking to the community, it's like I got back into the hobby with comic books about a year and a half ago now. And to be honest, like if I had started it, because I started it by myself just doing it, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. But if I didn't enter the community and join the community as I did, that probably honestly would have burned out, like,
Yeah,
in a couple months. And
100%.
then like
Yeah.
starting the podcast with JP has connected us with so many more people that like it just exponentially has made me buy in more versus kind of retract out.
And you learn a lot of like tips from people like Johnny. I think I was just talking to him last night. Like 3 in the morning. Again, I don't like to stay up, but these guys are on, West Coast, so like
Well,
I'm
Johnny's
up
in
there.
Hawaii, so he's
He's
way
in
behind.
Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like,
So,
okay, I'm trying to stay awake. Yeah.
Jesus, where you at? Are you East Coast?
I'm in Dallas.
Okay,
I'm
so
in
you're
Central. Yeah.
Central Time. Okay.
So like even him like just yeah, man, just the stories they give you and like his philosophy, which is something I adapted like along the way. Is like, I'm not gonna chase anything in particular. Like if it lands, like the opportunity arrives and I want it and it makes sense, I'll do it. But otherwise I'll let it go. I'm not gonna stress out trying to chase something. Like
I actually feel that's kind of very much how you collect, JP. It's just kind of like if the opportunity arises and it's good, like you kind of jump on it. Otherwise, you're not too
yeah.
concerned over like I got to get this book and work towards it. After of course when we had Hulk 181 kind of was our go to book.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any more grails left that I would, unless the opportunity was there. I did not. I don't have a list of things I need to get.
Yeah.
So that's just me. But so I
Yeah.
mean, there's plenty of books I could spend money on. I would buy X-Men 1. I would buy AF-15. If money was no object. But if any of those came across for a good deal, maybe I'd jump on them. But other than that, I'm indifferent at this point to most of what's out there.
Yeah, like you build your collection to a certain point where you're happy with it. Like I'm happy with what I have in the Doctor Doom cards. Like there's a lot of new Doctor Doom collectors out there, and it's cool. Like I'll let them fight out for whatever they want. Like I'm grabbing things, just as they appear, and if it makes sense, it makes sense.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's kind of how I've taken like the 22 Marvel masterpieces with Silver Surfer. It's like they're really only cards. There's the holofoil and the Battle Spectre gem,
Battle, no,
and the Battle Spectre gem is the one I want. But like, and they're starting to pop up on eBay, but the prices with the hype tax is I'm not
it,
paying that much.
it's
With the
high
what
right
tax?
now.
The hype
The
tax because
hype
everyone's
tech,
like
Hype
hype
yeah.
on
hype
hype.
tax.
Yeah,
I mean,
Right.
yeah, like I pulled the Spider-Man Venom, which
yeah,
is one of the big ones, right? Like I got lucky. I bought 2 boxes. They were expensive to begin with. Like a lot of people just can't afford it, and I lucked out with the autograph and that Spidey Venom Red Battle Spectrum. But yeah, man, I sold it. I sold it right away. Like I knew there was peak interest in it. Like after that, like I had like 1500 over $1,500 just free. After those 2 cards sold, like so I went and bought the Doctor Doom that I needed and called it a day. I'm out.
Yep.
Like I don't need to. It'd be nice to
Yep.
have the green one. The green
Opportunistic.
one looks nice, but like if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen.
yeah. I actually
That,
saw the green one for the first time just the other day.
Yeah,
but I think that's more opportunistic that you're utilizing your knowledge to find or buy that thing or have that opportunity to get that one book or one
yeah,
card or whatever it may be to flip it to something else. You don't want we're not flipping to you're flipping to make money, but you're doing it because you want to collect something specific. So you want to find the opportunity
yeah,
to give to somebody who wants that so that
yeah,
you can buy what you want. It's not that you're flipping like you're, trying to rake people over the coals. You're just doing it to opportunity wise.
yeah. To get what and I went into buying those 2 boxes for the experience because I wasn't around in 2016 and 2018 and 2020 to experience the a masterpiece release, which it is different. Like it is it's like the premiere set of the hobby. So I just wanted to be part of it, right? I just wanted to enjoy it, and so I got fortunate. Some people lucked out. Some people didn't get the same return, but for the most part, anyone opening a product within the first week, you can move it for like prices where you get your money back. Like people are definitely paying high prices because it's a new card, it's a new product,
Yeah,
and a lot of people are not patient. They just want it now, right? They're gonna pay whatever it is. Like so, you just gotta be smart about it. I think this set once it goes into EPAC, the digital release, and people buy it all up and open it, those prices will settle.
yeah. Do you foresee yourself like buying boxes again of future sets, or is it just a one time experience?
Well, now that I think he's banned, like this, it's not even,
Oh
like
yeah,
you know, it if there's I know Beginnings has like some Fantastic Four or five cuts. Like if I see stuff like that, I might try to open a box for the experience, but the likelihood of pulling something is very small.
Yeah.
Um, but I like to dabble in packs. I'll buy like packs on ePack just to see if I can, whatever I pull. If I get bored, I get bored.
Yeah.
But now that I have like, the comic books, like I just rather throw money there. Like I just rather, I have multiple things I'm collecting now, so I don't think I'll be active on a
Yeah.
lot of those sets.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to branch out because then it keeps your. Even Mike, he was talking recently. He's been buying from Lunch Money Comics. He's been doing some antiques and toys and stuff like that because it just keeps you like
Yeah.
gives you that jolt, right? Because you're looking for, you put something on your list and say, I want to find this, and then you're searching, you find it, you move on to the next one, and just keeps you sort of pumped, right? Because
Yeah.
you can get stagnant in
It gets stagnant. It
in the
definitely,
cards or comics, right?
and even like when you have like a collection that you really love, like it fades away, right? That love for it fades away, and then you find a piece to add to it, and it kind of like gives you that, re-energizes
Reinvigorates it.
that
Yeah.
feeling. Like this one, the comic cut I recently got for like once I got this, I kind of like, oh, okay, I've had the other ones for so long, like it didn't feel special, but once you get another one in there, like as a collective, like you get excited again.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what's been fun for me dabbling into the card area is that like it's reinvigorated, like it's something different and new. And I think it goes great hand in hand with the comic book
And for
collecting.
people like me, it introduced me to the comics. Like I'm actually looking at the comic books now, right? Like I'm matching them up. I'm reading them. Otherwise, I wouldn't be really searching for them. And the other way around, like some of these, comic book collectors only are now starting to see comic cuts and are being introduced to Marvel cards. So I think they go hand in hand for sure.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's just my only problem is just the grading of the cards. I would probably be all about it, but I only graded probably on my own 5 books myself, and I have probably maybe let's say 10 or 15 graded books. But to send a bunch of cards in, there's just so many of them out there that it just and that's what determines the value of the grade. Correct?
Well, like I said, it depends.
Yeah.
Like for instance, like the card he just showed was a CGC grade 8,
Mhm.
right? There's not a ton where grade 10 matters is
But
like on those.
it's hard number,
Right,
right?
but
There's
not even
only
Yeah.
grade. I'm just saying in general, it's
59 of
graded.
them.
It's the highest grade, whatever you can get. Right, that's what matters. Not just having some random card
But like
or random raw.
take for instance that card that he had. There how many what's that numbered out of?
43 out of 59. So there's only 59 of
There's
them. Okay.
59, but
Wow.
that'll be the only one with that specific. So like these comic cut cards, right? They'll be numbered to 40 or to 50 or to 59 like this one, but they'll each have their own individual cut from the book.
Hmm.
And there are definitely going to be some that are like if it's a Doctor Fantastic Four 5, like the one he just showed, because it's got Doctor Doom right front and center. That's going to be more valuable than one that doesn't have Doctor Doom for Fantastic Four 5, regardless if it's a 10 or not.
Yeah, those
Right?
don't depend on grades. Like
Yeah.
and like the Stan Lee, like yeah, go find another one. Like you can't like some cards, like there's so few out there. Like if you know which ones, they're not numbered,
Yeah.
but they're significant, right? Like
Yeah.
there's Stan Lee
So
sketches where he like sketched the Spider-Man and like
so
autographed
like
it. Like
especially
some of
like when we
those.
talk about like these 90s sets, right? They're so mass printed and there were no like limited rare inserts in those. The only way you can create a rarefied version of that is to have that PSA 10 or the CGC 10 of it. That creates the rarity involved with it, right? So my advice for anyone in that kind of if you want to play that game, like for those 90s cards, just buy the 10. You're gonna have a way easier time finding a pre-graded 10 than submitting over and over to PSA or to CGC,
Yeah.
trying to hit a 10. Because you could send in 10 cards and not get a single 10, right?
Yeah.
Because of, they got to be perfect. So just spend the money to buy the 10. The cards that a lot of the cards I'm chasing now and what Doom chases they're numbered out of 50, they're numbered out of 25, they're numbered out of 10. Like, you just need to get a copy. And I honestly, like, the ones that I have, I'll grade more for the protection aspect of it. And
Yeah.
that side of things, because it's the best way, I think, to preserve them. But, like, I have a couple Silver Surfer cards that are out of 10 and they're graded 8.5. I don't really care that they're at 8.5. Now, granted, I don't want them graded 4, but, like, you know what I mean? But, like, at the end of the day,
But
like,
they look
I've got,
cool when they're graded, especially the
yeah,
ones
they
you
do
were
look,
showing early on. The comic
Yeah.
covers of the Surfer ones, like they look like a miniature version of a comic with a grade on it. So
exactly.
I think that's cool
Yeah.
for a reasonable price. Like if you're not going to get a 10, I take an 8 for $50 or whatever it may be just to have
Yeah.
it.
I definitely, and I as well, like Doom says, like, I definitely have, like, a ceiling to what I can, and, like, my ceiling for a
Yeah.
card would be much lower than what it is for a comic book. That's just how I view it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, right now, some of the 10s, like some of those 90s cards, like the Impel stuff, like they're so cheap too. Like compared to what they were going for, like it's not too crazy to buy a 10 for like what, $40, $50,
Yeah,
some of
40,
those.
$50, you can get those PSA 10s, no doubt.
And
Now,
Oh
some
really,
of,
yeah.
like,
you never know what that's because something may change, just like in the comics. That it may become more valuable for who knows
Yeah.
what the reason
I
is.
mean, I was picking some of those up for $200-$300 at one point. I had like 48 Doctor Doom slabs, PSA 10s. I was doing the whole graded collection, and a lot of those are like $75 now. Like it was first to market, and that's kind of what I noticed it right away. So I just kind of started selling them to other collectors and stepped away collecting that way. Like it didn't make sense. If you're gonna go after something Marvel and you want to play it safe, get a hard numbered card.
yeah.
Otherwise, just kind of wait it out until those 10s pop up for like if there's a bunch of those printed, you'll get those cheaper. Like
Yeah, and that's kind of I'm with my Silver Surfer collection. It's like I kind of got the 90s cards that I want, in because in the PSA 10 they you can get them fairly cheap, like we were just talking about. And
Mhm.
so now what I do chase is the hard numbered cards because they have that rarity to them. And you don't have to be so cognizant of, like, this is a 10 or not. Obviously
Yeah.
having a 10 in that would obviously be awesome, but when there's 25 of them, you just need to be fortunate to be one of the 25 with it.
And even though like a lot of people have picked through a lot of those, like there's still like if you find a diamond from Rittenhouse out of 10, like you don't see those very often. Like
Yeah.
the Marvel 75th anniversary, those diamonds, you don't see those often. Like I've only seen one Doctor Doom.
You just got one, didn't you?
I just got the second one because I let the first one go because at the end I was like, I don't really need it. Then once I narrowed it down to Jack Kirby, I'm like, oh, I need that back. So when I saw the 10 out of 10, I'm like, I'm gonna go get it. There's still opportunity to get those, but I mean, they pop up rarely. Like you really have to lock it down right away.
Yeah.
People are always waiting for them. The rubies out of 50 are more attainable, even though they're more attainable. They're easier to find than the emeralds that are out of 100 because they were all in like one box, the archive boxes, where people would buy cases and they would get a whole box with a full set of reds. So like the greens sometimes are more difficult, even though there's more of them out there, because people haven't really opened all those boxes, or they're
Yeah.
hidden. Like there's people in Marvel cards that have binders worth $100,000, like of just stuff in binders. Like they don't move them.
I
You're
will
not
tell
gonna
you
see them.
one good thing in Jesus, you may have experienced this recently. For a lot of these, like, sets we're talking about that are now 5, 10 years old that have these, like, rare numbered cards, the
Mhm.
perfect time to buy them is right now because everyone is so focused
On
on
the new
Marvel
stuff.
Masterpieces
Yeah.
that just came out. So I'll give you an example. I told a story when Elusive was on. So he was kind of showing me, like, some of these kind of, no, all I knew at the time was 90s cards, and he was talking to me about some of these newer sets. And so he sent me on eBay this ruby, um, of that 75th anniversary set that Jesus was just talking about, and it was a PSA 8. And so at the time, I kind of was like, "Oh, it's not a 10. It's probably not worth that much."
Yeah.
And I listed at $200, and I was like, "He's like, you should buy this. It's like this is a card you'd want." And I'm like, "Really?" And within that, like, minute of me hesitating and thinking about it, the card sold, and I was like, "Oh crap! Like, I should have probably picked that up." And so after that, I started to learn more about this. And then as the same weekend, so I have not seen that card since. the same weekend that Marvel Masterpieces dropped, someone put just another one of those cards, that exact same Ruby, on eBay. And I was like, oh, I saw it and I was like, oh, let's just hope when this auction ends, people are just going to be focused on Marvel Masterpieces.
Oh man,
that card I got for $50.
those some like the last 3 weeks. When did Masterpiece come out? Like 3,
Now
4
it's like
weeks
probably
ago.
a month ago. Yeah.
Like shout out to Brian Obidin, like one of those guys who don't talk publicly, but they're sniping auctions like out there. They're picking up things. He got a Just Go out of 10. I forget the character, but like for $300, people were busy in the new Masterpiece. All these cards that you never see pop up, going for super low.
Yeah, because a lot of these cards pop up because people want to sell them to raise funds to buy the new set. And so it's a good opportunity like that. It's a prime opportunity to buy these
To go
older
buy.
sets. Yeah.
A lot of cards become available, and
Hmm.
people get excited about the new stuff. They have what they need, right? They have rare cards though that you don't see if you're around. Like if you're recently around, you haven't seen those. So it's an opportunity to go get some of like the harder stuff to find out there.
Yeah. But
Um,
yeah. Well, hey, Jesus, we're kind of coming up on the hour and a half mark, which is kind of usually where we got to call. But this has been awesome. Thanks for coming on for our 40th episode.
Thanks for having me, man. I enjoy the conversation. I check your stuff out. I'm watching it. It's awesome to see. When you hit me up, I was like, okay, let's do it. I'm okay. Wednesday. And shout out to all the people out there. Shout out to all the homies who I'm sure they're gonna watch. They're gonna tune in. Yeah, man. Keep it going, guys. Like 40. I don't know how many episodes we've done, but like 40 seems like you guys have been doing a lot more than us. So
yeah, we've kept a fairly once a week cadence, and we started last December in 2022. So get close to the year for sure.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
Rohan doesn't let a week go by without a podcast. So
yeah,
I'm usually the one like, look, guys, I don't want to record this. Like, y'all can do whatever y'all want. Like, I need a mental break.
Let's go.
Yeah. This is, but to me again, I'm an extrovert. You've already said on here that you're more of an introverted guy.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I find these.
I have no charm. I have no charm. So I should just be on a camera at all, right?
Yeah. And so like doing this is what is my escape, and it does bring me in. So I am happy I look forward to doing these once a week. So
no, these are important. Videos like these. Even recently, like having family with health issues, like when real life kicks in, like you seek out videos people post just to get your mind off difficult things going on. So definitely like I have a deeper appreciation of our community and all the people who do videos and put themselves out there for sure. Like salute on 40, and hopefully you guys keep it going for sure.
Yeah. And so everyone out there, if you want to follow Doom, he's at Doomcard on IG, and then the NSDC podcast, I'll put the link in the description when we drop the podcast.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Jesus, appreciate you joining us tonight.
All right.
Sorry I was late, everybody, but I'm glad everyone could keep it going.
So. Yeah. But yeah, please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Yeah.
All right, guys.
See you at the next podcast. Peace out.
Peace out.
Later.